actually did branch out and start up your coaching firm. So Amy Oliver and
Mhm,
Co. And that's been going swimmingly well. You've been doing it full time since maybe 12 months after you started.
mhm.
How does that actually go? What kind of like clients are you actually coaching? What are some of those problems that they're
Yeah.
experiencing? Why do people come to you?
Yeah, great question. So we do really three key different things. Most of our time is spent in either business consulting or executive coaching with health leaders. And of those clients, most of them are community based practitioners that run their own practices. So not a lot, and not some, but not a lot in hospital settings or primary care. Like regional health authority run settings,
Hmm.
very much private practice. But it's right across disciplines. So I would say the majority of my clients are pharmacy, veterinary, and physicians. And then we have a bit of a scattering of like physio and a couple others. But most of the work that we do with them is trying to, from a consulting perspective, it's giving them that business and managerial and operational support and knowledge to actually do all of that side of their business. So they often come with an idea, they'll want to niche down or get a new building or start their own clinic, or they have these big dreams, but they have really no idea or skill on how do you operationalize these things. They don't know a lot about how do we put these policies in place? What does an onboarding program look like for new employees at our clinic? What does a proper training program look like? How do you even like hire properly or recruit? How do you terminate when I need to? All of these things are the complexities of running an independent practice that they don't teach you in dentistry or med school or pharmacy school and so on. So that's a large part of our time, is working one-on-one with business owners in the healthcare space to help them really figure out what they need to do in their business to be efficient and successful, and then how to do it. The executive coaching side of things is often with those clients too. So they're often consulting and coaching clients. Then we also serve quite a few coaching clients that don't necessarily run their own businesses. So we have clients like all touching healthcare and wellness in some way, but some of them work at, for example, cancer care. We've got a hematologist. We have really high up health system leaders in some of the governments, lots of academia, and then also some private practice, and a scattering of more mid-level career people who are hoping maybe to start a practice or hoping to move into a more senior role. But by and large, they're people that are either already in ownership or in mid to senior level positions within an organization.
And so the consulting side of things makes sense. It's pretty flexible, could be open to whatever kind of operational challenges are needing to get off the ground or needing to be tuned up. What does the
Yeah.
coaching side of things actually look like? Like what are some common mistakes people are making that you come in and you're like, "Oh my God, you're doing this and this and this," or "You're not doing this and this and this."
Yeah.
What do those look like?
So that's sort of actually the consulting side. So when we go in, we analyze, we provide suggestions and recommendations. That falls into consulting. Coaching is a bit different. It's less around advice and mentorship and more around helping you think more critically and come up with a plan. So I like to describe coaching in its most simplest form as, you know more about you than I do, right? And I trust that you actually have the skills and the expertise you need to dig yourself out of whatever rut you happen to be in right now. What happens though is when we're stuck in the mud, we can't really think very clearly. We don't really know what to do, where our emotions are getting in the way, our nervous systems are getting in the way, and we don't have the confidence to move forward all of the time. So often the coaching conversations are more about guided thinking to help you figure out what it is that you want and what exactly you need to do to get there, but through your own perspective. So, when I really dumb it down, I say, if you told me you wanted to plan a kitchen renovation in your house, I could come in and I could tell you exactly what I think your kitchen should look like and how it could work. But that's the kitchen that I would like, not necessarily the same kitchen that you would like. Right. So I'd be much more effective asking you the kind of questions that are needed to get you to design your own kitchen and figure out how to get the kitchen of your dreams, not the kitchen of my dreams. And that's sort of the difference between consulting and coaching. Does that make sense?
Where does the line then draw between like somebody getting a counselor, like a psychologist versus a coach, right? It sounds like there's a
Yeah.
lot of similar techniques at play, reflecting things back, asking probing
Yeah.
questions. At what point is executive coaching versus talking to a psychologist more appropriate?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great question. A couple of things that I would add in there. So, one of them is that a lot of counseling psychotherapy is backwards facing. Coaching is largely forward facing. So, we're thinking very much about like what is the next thing you need to do going forward, not focusing so much on why things have happened in the past, focusing on things that work and how to do more of them instead of things that haven't gone right and how you feel about them. Does that make sense? So, we're
Gotcha.
not
Okay.
really yeah, very clearly like when you become a coach and you learn about the questioning techniques, some of the things that we learn are like, for example, that all of your questions should be forward facing. So, not like, well, why do you think that? That is sort of like judgy, and we don't really care why you think that. It's, well, what do you need to do next to move forward? Or how could you find out if that's true? And often questioning assumptions and moving forward. So, that, and then I would say, just as a healthcare provider in general, I've got to and that's what I think makes me a bit different than other executive coaches out there. If you have a clinical background to begin with, you're pretty good at assessing whether or not you should be referring in, a particular case. Like I had one person ask me one time to be their coach, and I met with them in the first coaching session, and they were very clearly there to try to figure out how they could travel because they had a deathly fear of planes. And I'm like, this is not a conversation for me. You need to go talk to someone else. So it's about boundaries, understanding where your role is and where you can help people. And for that reason, you don't take everybody, right? We'll often have a discovery call first to figure out whether coaching is an appropriate step for you before you even sign on and do it. And it has to feel like a good fit for both people. Right. It's boundaries, right? I mean, it's in any profession. We need to know, even in clinically, like when can I help someone as a pharmacist versus when should I refer them to a physician? And it's the same in coaching and therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the main evaluation criteria on every med school rotation was can recognize own limitations or not.
Right. Yeah. And where are the red flags, right?
And so, how did
Right.
you get into this in the first place? Like, you're, obviously a very people oriented person and had those like leadership pieces to running the franchise, to doing the operations with shoppers. How did you get into that more one on one as opposed to organizational leadership?
Well, I really wanted to build a life I had control over. And I think that's something that's a bit hard to get in healthcare. That's a challenge for a lot of people, is really to build that lifestyle that you want. And so that was a part of it for sure, was I wanted to be able to pick my own schedule, work when I want, not work when I don't want, and so on. And so quite honestly, that was a big driving factor. But another piece is, we all can remember those days where the hours just seem to fly by and we're having a great time. And then you remember the days that feel like you're watching the clock and it takes forever and it's the same amount of hours, right? And so the easiest answer is I wanted to craft my own time and my own job so that I liked being there and I was engaged in all of the work I was doing. And over time, the more you do it and the more you really commit to that, the more often you can say no to the things that don't light you up anymore. And then you get to this point where you love all of the things that you do.
I'm Dr. Jordan Valrath, and you've been watching Cherry Live, brought to you by Cherry Health. Please like and subscribe to see more clips like this, or check us out at www.cherry.health, Canada's medical network.